Hello and welcome, I'm Ian, and this is my Streets of Rogue character tier list. I had a poll a few months back of what Ians wanted to see from me once I reached 3,000 subscribers, and this is what you guys voted on, so let's get into it. Let's quickly go over how I'll be ranking them. The three big attributes I'm going to cover are how powerful they are overall, such as, well, simply put, what is their intended playstyle and how good are they at how you're intended to play them. Versatility, how good are they at playing at stuff other than what they were explicitly designed to do. And lastly, overall power, or ability to not die as you progress through the floors without needing to rely on items and abilities you're not guaranteed to get between runs. I'll be going over them in the same order I did my character guide series for Streets of Rogue, so link to that in the description if you're interested. So without further ado, let's get into the basics here. For the Slum Dweller, which we'll be cutting off with, is basic, D tier. To me, the Slum Dweller is something of a measuring stick to use for. He's got nothing amazing about him, but he's nothing wrong with him either, so good baseline to work off of here, and frankly speaking, being better or worse than the Slum Dweller is basically the metric I'm working off of here for the most part. The whole thing with the Slum Dweller is that he can level up faster, and he gets more skills and abilities to choose from when he levels up, so you can easily pick and choose and snowball much more easily with this character than the other ones. The big problem there is that you don't really have anything going to help you get the ball rolling there. You just have a bottle of whiskey to heal yourself with, and nothing else to help you get started. This guy's pretty much just 2 bottles of whiskey and a bacon cheeseburger away from being amazing, but he doesn't have that, and, like, you can make a custom character that does that, but custom characters are everywhere on this spectrum because you can make them literally whatever you want, so we'll be ignoring them for this video. So yeah. Slum Dweller snowballs very well, but he doesn't have anything to help him get the ball rolling here. Next is Soldier. Soldier is amazing. Yeah, health regenerates if you're below 20 health, so you can constantly revive allies if you're playing multiplayer, plus he gets a plethora of weapons, so if you want to go guns blazing, you're pretty much set in stone there. His big quest just forces you to blow stuff up constantly with the generator hunting, but really, the big thing here with the Soldier is just you have everything you need to go guns blazing, and the only thing that stops him from being super tier is the fact that if you don't want to go guns blazing, I want to be like a stealth warrior or whatever, you're just wasting inventory space with your starting loadout and abilities for the most part, but you're not really shooting yourself in the foot meaningfully since you can just go to a Cellomatic and remedy that. So, yeah, great character, but not the best of the best here. The Crepes and the Blahds are basically the same thing, honestly. Here are 2 gangs that are identical that want to kill each other because they're wearing different shirts. They're kind of like the reverse of the Slum Dweller in a sense you have a nice, decent starting gear kit, but you don't really have anything going for you to get the ball rolling from there. Still, the fact that you're killing an entire enemy gang and everyone in your own gang will vote for you means you have a decisive leg up over everyone else we've covered so far if you want to go for an election victory, but they're just basic, B-tier, average. Nothing special going on there in my opinion, especially compared to some of the other guys we'll be covering. Up next is Thief. Thief, I'd say is honestly like low A, high B, somewhere in the middle there. Probably B. Like, yes, you can systematically loot everything around there, but you're just going to be constantly trying to get back to the Cellomatic and pawn off your crap so that you can have more room in your space to steal, and it's a huge hassle. Being able to steal stuff from other people just constantly with the sticky glove can be very useful, especially if you have, like, retrieve item missions and there's this guy surrounded by cops or whatever. You can just kind of grab and run. But that's useful, but I wouldn't say it's game-breaking, and it doesn't really... It's a one-trick pony in a sense on that one. Still, he has a lot of tools that can help you get in and out of situations, and really there's no wrong answer, but he's definitely got the highest skill level of everyone we've covered so far, as small as that list is, honestly. Up next is the Shopkeeper. Yeah, definitely basic. Like, you start with a portable Cellomatic, so you can constantly pawn off crap you don't need, and you have a basic mission that forces you to do that constantly, but, like, yeah, you can sell stuff off and have a lot of money, but what are you going to do with that mountain of money? He doesn't really have anything to do with that money intrinsically, and you're just going to have to hope to God that the shopkeepers and so forth around you have stuff that's good. And while that's not exactly the biggest deal breaker, it's definitely not enough, in my opinion, to make him amazing. Like, I have a ton of money. Okay, and money by itself doesn't do anything. It just lets you get stuff more easily. And you need to actually have that stuff on hand to be out of basic, in my opinion. So, yeah. Vampire, yeah, definitely amazing. Like, the vampire's biggest weakness that keeps him from ever being in super tier is the fact that he can't eat normal food. You have to go for blood and such, which is a huge problem if you're playing solo, but in multiplayer, normal food's gonna get hoarded by the other people, especially if you're playing with randos online. So that's just gonna just solve right there. Plus, the vampire's invisible to cameras and such, so don't have to worry about security cameras screwing you over as security attacks you. You can just ignore cameras entirely. Very nice. Being able to just turn every living NPC into a health pack effectively, also very nice. Just, you know, be careful of cops when you do that. Very nice character overall. Not the greatest, but still quite powerful in my opinion. Zombie is definitely super tier in my opinion, since the only downside of the zombie is you only have one trick, but it's a very good trick. Everyone you kill with melee turns into a zombie unless they explode into giblets upon their death. You can easily just zombify entire floors, and just the zombie disaster at the end of every floor segment is just a non-issue for you. It's just glorious and powerful, and really there's no way to go wrong there. And the next character we have, the hacker, is basically the same boat of just, you can systematically break down an entire floor with the hacking tool. The only thing I would say with the hacker you really need to concern yourself with, especially if you're new to the game, is when you hack in and for your big quest to install malware onto a computer, a bunch of robots are going to spawn near the entrance and exit elevators for each floor, and 2 of those robots are going to make a beeline for whatever computer you hacked. So bear that in mind. You can hack the robots to attack everything on site, but while you're hacking into them, they'll know exactly where you are and make a beeline towards you, so that's something you need to be very careful about. If you're playing in multiplayer with a friend or something, try to get one of them to go with the robot if you're playing the hacker, because the robots that spawn from you installing the malware can be easily destroyed by your team's own robot, just sapping that crap out. So that's very powerful. Gorilla, I would say, is A tier. Very good if you want to go smashy with melee of your choice, or if you just want to eat bananas or whatever, but the big issue is you can't speak English, so you can't really... That's going to be a huge thorn in your side you're going to have to deal with through an augmentation booth or something if you want to get through for an election victory. But if you don't intend to go for an election victory, and you don't intend to be using guns for any reason, the gorilla is arguably one of the best characters in the game. But most people like to use guns and go for election victory, so he's not S tier. Cop? Definitely S tier, though. Like, you can just handcuff people immediately. Worst case scenario, you lose a little XP because they were innocent or whatever in this game. But for the most part, not a huge deal in most situations. Like, get the crooked trade if you can, just, you arrest people. Don't even have to fight them most of the time unless they're in like a big group, and while you're arresting them, you'll have to fight them off, but that's not a big deal, especially since other cops on the floor will be allied to you. Just trivializes a lot of the game, honestly. Like, the biggest problem in Streets of Rogue as you go through the floors is how police are going to be a bigger and bigger problem. And when you're playing the cop, they generally aren't the biggest problem for the most part. Speaking of amazing characters, the Doctor, like, yeah, you can't use most weapons, but you start with a tranquilizer gun and an ability to chloroform people from behind to knock them out instantly, so... Yeah, I can't use a rocket launcher, but I can still one-shot anything that isn't a robot from a distance with a tranq gun. So what? Like, it's not a big deal here. Like, yes, it needs a little getting used to if you're new to the game, but it's not that hard to figure out. Honestly, the only real downside is your big quest requires you to not kill people, but bear in mind, the people you're tranquilizing with your chloroform hanky and crank gun are not going to count as dead, and if you're not the guy that kills them, it doesn't count against you. So if it's like Crepes and Blahds are fighting in a street or a zombie outbreak happens, those bodies don't count against you. Also, zombies in general don't count against you, because apparently zombies are already dead, so can't kill them. At least as far as the big quest is concerned, and that's all that matters to me. So punch away at every single zombie that gets in your way. It's very useful. A ninja, I'd say is A tier. Ninja is just amazing. You can just one-shot everything with single melee strike, and honestly, you don't even need to use anything other than your fist to win the game with a ninja for the most part, but having a longer melee swing means that you have a bigger margin for error for when you hit both your swings, or you can hit multiple people with a single swing of your melee if you're not using your bare fists more easily. Very nice to have. Just the only thing that stops him from being super tier, in my opinion, is the fact that his entire quest is, I'm going to kill a bunch of people, and sometimes you don't want to just kill literally everything in existence. Heresy! Like, that is the one thing. Like, he's not like the zombie where he's just so good at doing that one thing, in my opinion, that it just invalidates, well, what if you want to do something else? And it's like, why wouldn't you want to do anything else? Like, you have one of the best stealth abilities in the game. Maybe you just want to sneak past, grab the thing, and leave without anyone knowing you were there, because that's just as satisfying. And this guy just says, no, we are killing stuff whether you want to or not. And that's it there. Shapeshifter, definitely borderline between super and amazing. Yeah, let's go with super. Because, like, you can systematically just break down a floor. Definitely requires a lot more skill to actually pull off successfully than anyone else we've covered so far. Like, I think the only other character in the game that has, like, a similar skill ceiling in the game is, like, the alien, since you can both control other people and you have to carefully manage your positioning so that people don't attack you after your possessed target ends up starting a barber fight or whatever. But still, very amazing to use overall. Just, plus you can teleport through toilets, that's always fun. Next is the Bartender. Amazing. If you want to go for an election victory, the Bartender is basically just a matter of, how do I get through each floor without dying? Because unless you have, like, a riot disaster or something, basically you already have a winning majority votes in your favor when you're going for an election victory with the Bartender. He's just super amazing there. The only problem is that if you're not going for an election victory, he is just so lackluster overall compared to the other characters. So, yeah. Next is the Cannibal. The Cannibal is just basic in my opinion. Like, yeah, well no, more like amazing honestly. If the Cannibal and the Vampire are basically the two sides of the same coin. Like, hey, you want to have ways to heal that don't get stolen by literally everyone in multiplayer? Well then, here you go, because you can eat undestroyed corpses. Like, guy blows up from like a rocket launcher, you're not going to be able to eat him. But the guy that the gorilla just punched to death, yeah, you can eat that guy and heal. And your big quest is very much eat this person, then move on to the next floor. So it's very easy to do the big quest with him as well. He's just overall a great character. The only problem is that he is very heavily focused on one thing and one thing only. And he is not ungodly amazing at doing that one thing, like, say, the zombie was. He's just above average in terms of being able to kill and eat stuff. Comedian, no, that's crap tier. Comedian's like, you think, oh, he can tell jokes and stuff, and then you can get votes for election victories like the Bartender, and you'll have allies and stuff. No. Now, people will sometimes get offended at your jokes and attack you on sight. And yes, there are traits in the game you can pick up as you go along to help compensate, but if I have to pick up random traits for you to not be terrible, you're not a good character in yourself. Okay? Like, I should not need to have to go... Like, the whole thing of the Slum Dweller is, I can become anything with minimal fuss. If you're not playing the Slum Dweller, there is basically zero chance you're gonna get anything good in terms of the traits you get as you level up. Like, there's no chance, there's no guarantee that that you're going to get exactly what you need in any capacity unless you just rigged things in the settings to the point where it's physically impossible to get bad traits whatsoever. So it's like, yeah, you can make it work, but he's not good. And then there's the Slave Master. Amazing. Amazing. Like, the Slave Master. Slave Master is amazing. Like, you can catch people, and you're basically playing Pokemon with the Slave Master, because you just enslave people, maybe take them back to the elevator for your big quest, usually just send them on suicide missions to blow up against the neutralization target or whatever else you want gone. The only thing that stops him from being super is the fact that he just, unsurprisingly, enslaving people makes people want to not vote in your favor, so if you're going for an election victory, Slave Master is not going to be able to handle that. But he's not so amazing like the zombie that it just invalidates that issue altogether. Still, quite good, very powerful, but yeah. Catching slaves and just doing all sorts of crazy stuff, amazing. That's it. Moving on to the Scientist. Scientist, crap tier. Like, you have a mountain of items to flex around here, but you're constantly being forced to use them on other random people for experimental stuff with your big quest, and you're basically setting up a neon sign to say, everybody, please attack me. Yeah, no. No. It's not that good. Like, you just have a bunch of items, like, using rage potions to shoot at people through broken windows or whatever to get them to attack everyone so that so like the local authorities will neutralize them for you, great. But what happens when you have a big quest that requires you to make the police hostile? Like, there's too much that can easily go wrong with his big quest that it just invalidates. Like, if you ignore the big quest, he's basic at best. But with the EXP gains lost from not doing your big quest whatsoever, like, come on. You're going to be shooting yourself in the foot here just so your character can be average. No. No. That is... no. That is terrible. Speaking of average, Mobster. Again, it's like the Shopkeeper, but better. It's just, I can easily get a lot of money going on here, but I actually have something to back it up. But it's like, yeah, you have a lot of money, and yeah, you can just bribe the police into not attacking you, but you still don't have anything there. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, if you forget to pay for the police, they start attacking you. It's just... the whole thing with the Mobster is just, you are constantly collecting money so you can spend money to continue having things to be easy. So it's just like, okay, you have a ton of money. Now you have to spend it so the police won't shoot you on sight. Have fun with that. Like, it's not the worst in the world, but it's not the best. Like, if someone asks me, like, do I want to be the Mobster or the Cannibal? I'm picking the Cannibal. Like, yes, friend of the family is a great trait, because then I don't have to deal with the shakedowns downtown, but that's not worth picking an entire character just to not deal with that one issue. At least in my opinion. Moving on to Firefighter, also crap tier. You have an entire big quest that causes people to randomly have Molotovs and start chucking them around. That is not a fun time, especially when you realize you have to put out those fires. It's kind of funny that the best approach to dealing with that is to simply preemptively set everything on fire so that they can't set that on fire for you. That way you don't have to put out the fires, but it's also kinda weird when you think about it. But yeah, it's just, okay. I get a fire hose, so I can... The fire hose is basically like the fire extinguisher, except it doesn't take up an inventory slot. Yay, I can push people around. Unless there's a cliff nearby for me to push them off, which usually isn't the case in this game. because bottomless pits are not as common as you think they are. It's just not the best. It's usable. It's not the worst. Like, he is probably the best of all the crap tier, but he's still crap. So, moving on. Robot. Amazing. If you're playing co-op with a hacker, he is S tier effortlessly, but if you're playing solo, he is definitely just amazing because you constantly have to sap electronics constantly to keep your batteries charged, which means you have something of a pseudo time limit on a floor. And that can be something of a problem, generally speaking. You do have a rocket launcher in your starting inventory, though, so that effortlessly puts you here. Like, you basically have to have something horribly wrong with you to have a rocket launcher in your starting inventory and not be A tier. And while the sapper trait can sometimes be annoying to deal with and taking damage from water is a downside, to be sure, it's not enough for me to say, oh, that's terrible, can't play this character. No, you have a rocket launcher. Yes, there are some downsides you have to deal with, but if you play into them, it's just a straight upgrade, because you can keep the battery charged, you have amazing stats, you have amazing everything. You can turn lottery machines into health packs. Yes, certain foods don't heal you, it's problematic, but it's not anything you can't easily play around. Play to his strengths, and you will have an easy time, rest assured. Werewolf. Werewolf is just crap. Yeah, I should have moved these things around a lot sooner. Okay, readjusted things to be more on point here. Werewolf, just crap. Like, the whole thing is you get a horrible starting loadout and one really good ability and a big quest that requires you to just kill way too many people in a single use of that ability. It's not unusable, but it's definitely gonna hold you back more often than not. Like, hey, I can turn into a werewolf and just be a near unstoppable monster for a hot second. And then when the ability wears off, I'm just so screwed on so many levels because I just killed an entire building of people and now, like, half the people on the floor want me dead. And that can just screw you over so easily. Like, you can play around it, it's not the worst in the world, and it's fun as hell once you get things going, but it's like, come on. Come on. You can do better. Wrestler, I would say, is high crap tier. Like, being able to throw stuff at people and being quite burly is awesome, but you have a big quest that requires you to just constantly fight people every floor. You're not the greatest, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, yes, I can throw people, but you have, like, no starting speed. You can't outrun anything whatsoever. And your whole thing is, I can just pick up random furniture around here and throw it at people. So as I was saying, Wrestler, quite underwhelming, especially compared to, like, the Crepes Blahds. Like, having a mountain of money is more useful to me than being able to throw furniture at people's faces. Because I would rather just have a gun in my inventory than be able to throw stuff at people. Like, it's a fun ability, don't get me wrong. It's not a horrible character. And he's, like, of everything in crap tier, he is the closest to being D tier, in my opinion. Still, bad. Very bad. Jock. Worse than the Wrestler, in my opinion, but better than everything else in crap tier. Definitely the most fun of the entire crap tier, though. Because you can just run through buildings and cause mass destruction. Like, that is fun. I will not argue that. Like, it is fun as hell to do that. The problem is that you're gonna piss off everyone inside those buildings you just ran through. And they have guns, usually. And they will shoot you with all of them. So it's like, it's kind of ironic that the character that's supposed to be like the big dumb jock, in order to be played effectively, it requires you to be like a mathematical nerd to carefully chart the course of your charges to cause the precise amount of damage you want without pissing off everyone on the floor, which is kind of hilarious in a mundane way. And you have a big quest that's entirely built around just destroying as much as possible, but the problem is with the Jock is you don't have any way to heal yourself intrinsically. You just have to find money, find healing pack, some way to heal yourself, just loot trash for cheeseburgers and stuff, and hope to God you can keep your health bar up. And while you're charging, you don't get any damage resistance or invulnerability whatsoever. You're taking the same damage as if you were just walking around casually. So, if someone shoots a machine gun at you and you're charging, you better hope you can outrun those bullets, because, you're not outrunning the damage numbers. Yeah. Investment Banker, dumb. Like, you are shooting yourself in the foot with this character. The Investment Banker is very much the I want to challenge myself and have a hard time character. Because you're basically on a pseudo-time limit 24/7 in order to avoid withdrawal as you perpetually inject yourself with syringes, constantly trying to find the next high. It is a huge problem that can just absolutely ruin your runs, but if you're willing to just effectively treat your run like a speed run, the Investment Banker is doable. But realistically, it's better to play literally anyone else in the game, bar none. Just so you don't have to deal with that crap. Like, the only reason I played the Investment Banker at all was so I could make a video about it for this channel. That's the only reason I touched it, and after I finished that video, I had no inclination to ever touch it again. So, yeah. Moving on to the DLC characters, though. The Alien, S tier. Worse than the... yeah. Better than the Shapeshifter, worse than the Hacker and Cop. Because, like, you can remotely control people, even groups of people, with the Alien's mind control ability, and the only downside is, like, you're more restricted in terms, similar to the Doctor, in the sense that you can't use pretty much any weapons whatsoever. Like, the Doctor, like, yeah, you have the trank gun. Alien, no, you don't get the trank gun. You can't even use one if you find one. You can't use any of that stuff. You're basically relying entirely on your mind control ability, and if that doesn't work, you're screwed. The plus side, however, is that it's very hard to screw up the mind control ability. Like, unless you do something stupid like try to possess a single dude right in front of, like, 5 cops, you'll be fine. Like, just bear in mind, people don't like... it's like the Slave Master. You don't enslave people in front of people you don't want attacking you. It's just that simple. If you wouldn't enslave someone in that situation, don't mind control them in that situation. It's the same thing there. Just be mindful of where you're using the mind control ability and position yourself accordingly. Like, just don't be in broad daylight where anyone can see you when you're mind controlling. Like, try to be in a bathroom or something where cops aren't going to walk in on you. Moving on to the Mech Pilot. Definite A tier. Like, you have a mech suit, you shoot lasers, you just go Rambo across the floor. You're basically RoboCop for the most part, just mindlessly destroying everything, killing anyone with an arrow over their head, the entire floor. The big issue is, like I've said before with some of these characters, if you want to go for an election victory, you're kind of screwed because your big quest is basically kill half the floor's population. And that's the problem. Like, he lacks versatility, and he is not... and, like, if the mech suit could fit through doorways on its own, definite S tier, but the fact that you have to constantly leave the mech suit so you can go grab items and stuff so you can progress to the next floor definitely stops you from... just stops the Mech Pilot in general from being above amazing. Courier. Now, I'm sure some people will be like, oh, he's so amazing, you get to ski around at high speed. Like, no. The Courier is amazing. Yes. But he's not S tier. Like, your whole thing is, I have ice physics building up speed at 24/7. The Courier is not a bad character by any stretch, and it's definitely fun to be using, but going fast by itself isn't everything. Speed is not the only thing you should think about. You need to have a plan. Like, yes, going around really fast, just zip, hit and running, and just going through the floor at blistering speeds is fun and effective. But it's not going to guarantee you the win. It's not going to guarantee you anything. You have ice physics? Yes. You have power? Yes. But not on the same level as, say, the zombie, the cop, the alien. No, you are not on this caliber at all. You're still a good character. Don't get me wrong. But you're not here. Just more mobility is awesome, but mobility alone is not enough, in my opinion at least. Bouncer. Dumb. It's an escort mission. Like, you have the tools to keep the escort mission going, and it's doable. And it's definitely a lot more fun and engaging, in my opinion, than dealing with the drug addiction with the investment banker. Like, babysitting an NPC. Yeah, that's annoying. But the drug addiction's worse, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure there's someone that's going to be out there saying otherwise, but we're not talking about real-life people. We're talking about a video game. And having to deal with constant stat debuffs and draining health if you don't constantly put random status effects into you constantly, in my opinion, is worse than dealing with an annoying NPC that's occasionally going to demand that you escort it to a bathroom or whatever. Moving on. Goon. Average. The Goon is basically the same as the Crepes and Blahds. Basically, it's just, here's a quest where you walk into a building, say, yeah, I'll protect your home, to some random shopkeeper or whatever, and then a bunch of dudes walk in and start trying to blow the place up. Yeah, that works. I would not say that you should get the DLC to play the Goon whatsoever. I don't think the Goon should even be a factor here. I feel like the Goon is just a thing to say that you get over 5 characters in the Streets of Rogue DLC. He is not worth getting the DLC for. He's more of a, oh, I have the DLC. Well, I haven't tried this character out yet. Let's play him. Like the bodyguard, you play the bodyguard because you want a challenge. The alien, because mind-controlling people's fun. Courier, going fast, that's fun. Mech Pilot, killing everyone on the floor is fun. Goon. Okay, I have a bunch of people attacking a building. It's just nothing compared to the other characters here. He has nothing amazing about him. He's got, like, a pistol on him, some decent stats going in, but he's not god tier. He's just basic. He's average. I do not think the Goon is any better than the Slum Dweller or the Mobster or anyone else. He's just an okay character, in my opinion. Demolitionist? Definite A tier. Definite A tier. Being able to just have explosives to blow up everything and just level entire floors is hilariously fun. But, like I've mentioned before, he doesn't really have anything going for him if you want to go for an election victory. He lacks versatility. He's just average in that regard. His whole strength is that he can blow stuff up and is very offensively powerful. But when blowing stuff up isn't the solution, which, while quite rare, can happen, like if you're low on health and need to figure out how to get somewhere without drawing the attention of literally everyone, he cannot help you there. Like, the Demolitionist, if you're playing your cards perfectly, will just absolutely destroy a floor, but if you make mistakes and you lose a good chunk of your health and can't heal yourself, you're up shit creek without a paddle with him, because he can't help you get out of there. But that's all for now. Let me know what you think. Feel free to bitch and complain, and remember, this is my opinion. So if you're gonna try to treat me like I'm factually wrong, you're the ones being factually wrong. This is my opinion, not yours. Like, this is just one dude's opinion on the internet, not objective law. Don't treat this like gospel. Okay? Okay. Thanks for watching.